Welcome to Business Leader Breakthroughs, where we help unlock the potential in you, your teams, and your business. I'm your host, Ryan Castle, along with Dr. Mike Ashby. We share insights, experiences, and stories on achieving breakthrough success in business and life. In addition to a podcast, The Breakthrough is a coaching and advisory business that provides programs for business leaders, owners, and managers to develop your skills and capabilities to boost your business and enjoy a better life. To learn more, click the link in the episode show notes or go to thebreakthrough.co. Now let the breakthroughs begin. I think we all know as business leaders that meetings are an essential part of how we run a business.
Critical.
They're certainly not the only way.
Yep.
And meetings done well are a very, very effective tool in a business. Meetings done poorly are an absolute killer.
And a lot of business leaders have just got a kind of a pathological distrust of meetings, and that's just wrong. You know, they are still bringing people together face to face and having roundtable discussions. It's just a really fundamental piece of human interaction. So it's really important that we learn how to run them well so that we all get the most out of it.
The piece I did want to talk about today was whether meetings can be culture drivers or culture killers.
Graveyards for good ideas. Yeah.
I think we've probably all experienced the culture killing in meetings. Where you're attending those meetings that seem to lack purpose, agenda, outcome, no one's paying attention, not much fun at all.
The place your mind goes to die.
Yes, yeah, horrible. At The Breakthrough, we've put a lot of, I would say, work and evolution into really making our own team meeting something that adds value and actually helps drive our culture. And I think if we look back historically, we were probably pretty typical meeting. There was lots of, what's on the to-do list, what's work in progress, what needs to happen this week, those kind of things. And whilst those conversations still need to happen, I just didn't feel like the team meeting was the place to make it happen.
Yeah.
And like many organisations, we had our team meeting on a Monday, and when we were very focused on that work-only piece and what needs to be done, I always walked out of that session feeling rather de-energised because it just looked like a wall of work that needed to be completed, and that was kind of the gig. So we've done quite a bit of work to reshape what we've done in the team meeting.
Yeah.
What's been your sense, Mike, of how that team meeting's evolved and where we've been from?
When I think about culture, we start the conversation in the context of how do meetings affect culture. There's so many ways to think about culture and so many definitions, and it's all pretty vague. But for me, culture comes down to what is the energy in a place. And even that sounds a bit, okay, get the crystals out. But no. Because if you go into a place that's low energy, you can feel it. I for a few years I sublet of space with an organisation, and honestly, you go in the door, it was like a
suck
weight.
The life out of you.
Yeah, totally. And I was just kind of a little tenant in their place, right? And they weren't even doing anything; they were just hanging there. But the energy. And you didn't need a crystal to work that out. These people, there's just no vibe. And you go into other places and you can just feel it. It's when you go into a shop or a restaurant, wow, this is a job. So it's about energy. And therefore your meeting stuff is about how do you use a meeting of people to create energy? Because you can either kill it or grow it. And I think what you've done particularly and we've kind of worked on over time is how do we create energy in a meeting? And that's been our purpose. And exactly as you say, if you come out of there feeling like, that's because we haven't been paying attention to the dynamic around energy.
Yep.
So one thing,
great insight.
And I think the way you've thought about how to structure those, because it is you. I think if you think about it in that context, if you look at what you've done, that's the outcome.
Yeah, that central theme of energy is so true. It's good insight. The first thing we did was take away elements of the meeting where virtually everyone wasn't involved.
Yeah.
So we had items in there that were finance, and there were marketing, and there were operational bits. And we said, right, let's take those out and let's have those as separate catch-ups with just the people that need to be across those things. Of course, what depletes energy is when suddenly there's a whole lot of chatter going on in the meeting and it's not relevant to you.
It's another word.
Get rid of all that. The other piece that helps bring our energy is we use it as a really useful forum to reconnect with our purpose and our key goals. And that gives us as a team a sense of where we're headed and what we're trying to achieve, and I think that brings energy.
I think the other thing that sits in there in relation to energy is there's a sense of possibility. And possibility creates excitement. When we think about our future options and our opportunities, we get excited because there's a better future. And just, we can't help ourselves but feel, oh, that'd be great. That'd be really cool. Energy goes up.
Sure. Yep. The other key factor is bringing the personal into the work environment. We start all of our team meetings with a review of our personal goals and how we're tracking. Mike, how many days continuous on the Spanish now?
On the Aprendiendo Español, I think it's 186. Oh no, it's 193.
193.
193.
And look, everyone on the team has a personal goal. One of our team members just ticked off a half marathon. Someone's learning a language. We've got people doing meditation. It doesn't matter what it is, but it actually brings the personal in and helps us connect as individuals. And we're also there to motivate and occasionally hold to account and do a little bit of a grilling every now and then. The other thing that we do to bring that energy is we do what was your biggest success last week? And what's your number one for this week? Again, talking about successes brings energy in. It helps you understand with other people in the team that you may not work really closely with. You get a sense of what they're doing and how they're achieving, which is really, really helpful. And I find what's the number one you're working on this week very good for that prioritization. What is it? Yes, we've all got a million things to do. Yes, we could all bring out our to-do list and show 50 things. But what's the one thing? What is the one thing you're getting done?
And I think you've talked about your success from last week, and that's a reminder and a reaffirmation to yourself about, I can do that. I got that sense of satisfaction. And then there's the piece about my number one focus, which is if I can achieve this, it will be good. And again, you've created that sense of possibility. And the energy that comes from focus, because one of the things that destroys energy is mess. We've all had this sense where there have been times when my head is full of stuff that I've got to do. I've got to remember this, I've got to remember that, oh man, it just gets so tiring. And then go, right, we've got to clean it up. And whether you write it down on a list or you clean up your physical environment, when you've done that, and this is the whole Marie Kondo thing, when you clear the mess, your energy goes up. You feel better. And it's the same with the focus bit, even in the weekly meeting, is just, this is my number one thing. All the other stuff, this is the number one thing I've got to do.
Spot on. So can you help us today with what we might observe taking our meetings off course, and then how we might get them back on track? Or re-rail? Is re-rail a word?
Re-rail. Yeah, re-rail.
Re-rail?
I did call them re-rail. Yeah. Kind of the usual villains of meetings. Let's start with, as we were talking about this, I immediately thought of the topic changer. And I can remember this guy. And this guy had this nasty little habit of chiming in on the discussion at point, kind of going, I think so and so. But then, I think what we also need to do, and every time he would go off like that to the topic he wanted to cover, every single time he would steal the conversation. How do we re-rail that? The mindfulness at work pieces is what's really going on here. Now, at one level, we could follow that guy down that rabbit warren. That's not mindful. Mindful is, here's our topic. Oh, this guy is making a little comment about that so that he can segue off into his track. If that's what's happening, I, as the meeting runner, need to kind of manage that. And you interrupt, actually, because what they're doing is rude. They're hijacking the meeting. So the hijacker, you just go, look, can we just hold on to that thought? You can let him finish. Say, okay, good point. Let's just kind of park that one for the moment and come back to. So, because you're running the process.
Yes.
You're the leader running the process.
Yep, that's a goodie. What about the people that perennially turn up late to our meetings?
Yeah, and I think everybody has this problem. And I think all you can do there is Well, number one is be there on time yourself, because as the leader, you set the tone. If you're late, everybody else will be late. So number one, be there on time yourself. Second, start on the dot. Never go back over, for the benefit of those who've come late, here's what we've been talking about for the last 5 minutes. Never. So just start. And people will either work out that they're going to miss out, and if that's their call, that's their call.
And I think when you first set a meeting up, actually agreeing what the framework and the must-haves for the meeting are, so you get everyone to buy in at the beginning, going, hey, you need to be here on time, we are going to be starting on the dot, there will be no recap, setting those ground rules really helpful as well. Yeah. Okay, what do you do with the dominator, the person that just always wants to take over the conversation?
There's always one.
At least. Sometimes two.
So actually, as I think about it, it's probably quite often me.
And as our good friend and fellow coach Britta would say, and what will you do when you hold up the mirror?
Yes. Oh, I'll just turn it around. What I tend to do with people who make a lot of contribution in the meeting, as soon as I find a gap, cut them and move to somebody else and invite others to speak. And what do others think? And sometimes if it goes on, I will actually say, Mike, loving your contribution, but I'd just like to hear from somebody else. And all you're doing, again, you're just paying attention to the process.
Yes. And what about when we get into this repetition loop? Sometimes it's individual, sometimes it's the whole meeting where we feel like we're going round and round in circles, talk about the same thing. We might be reinforcing what's already been said, but it has been said. What do we do when we've got the repetition loop happening?
I think one of the great skills of a meeting runner is to summarise. It takes practice and practice and practice, and doing it deliberately and mindfully. Summarise that point the person is making. So what I hear you say is ... Is that correct? And they go, okay, so that, and you box it. And then when they come back to it, as they will, because these tend to be one-trick ponies, they've got a thing on their mind, and you say, look, I think we've got that point, understood what you said, got it. Now, can we, and again, you just push the meeting to somebody else.
Mm-hmm. So, because we know that one of the good things to do in a meeting is to summarise where we've got to, let's do that for this podcast.
Let's summarise.
Are you going to do that?
Well, I think I would summarise, my summary point would be the job of the meeting leader is to observe what's really going on. That's the mindfulness at work piece, which is what's happening in this meeting. It's actually very common sense in terms of dealing with derailers. It's perfectly obvious what you do with them. And you be professional and you be direct. They get it, so long as you're both those things, so long as you're not, rude and cutting them off.
Yes.
But the real key bit is to know what's going on. Is that a summary? I
think it's the perfect summary, because it's if there's one thing you could take into your next meeting is to be mindful of what's going on in the room.
Pay attention to the dynamics.
If you're paying attention to those dynamics, as you say, they're actually pretty easy to manage if you're aware of them, but keep that awareness front and centre, and you'll be amazed how much more effective and efficient your meetings become. Look, I think for me, as a style, I tend to be a driver. I like to see things happening. I like, what are we doing? When's it going to happen? And for me, it's been a shift to start thinking about the value of spending this time in a team meeting to raise energy, to help build our culture. And so it's been a little bit incongruent with what I'd normally be doing, because as a style, I'd be like, right, what's happening? Let's get it done. Let's move on.
Yeah, but in a way, it works, because we don't do long discussions in our meetings anymore. We used to get kind of bogged down into
detail.
Particular, issues and problems and challenges, and what do we do about that? We don't do that anymore. It's bang, 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 which is again very much part of the driver style. So it works. Yeah.
So the energy works, and then when the things that do require deep discussion or more detail, they are in a separate session or individual people are meeting. So look, that's been a shift. That's been something we've constantly evolved. I'm sure we haven't mastered it just yet, but those initiatives have been a real positive for our team and for the way that we kick off the energy and the breakthrough every week.
And it's part of that kind of active mindset that we talk about, which is, for your meetings, the meetings that you run, when did you last think about what you're actually doing in them and how you might make them create a different outcome? And in particular, as we're saying here, how you might kind of double the energy. Rather than just going through the form, going through the agenda, bringing everybody together, the kind of need to know, coordination, etc., etc. How can you do something different? How can you kind of break away from just the default mechanism of it's Monday, it must be meeting time?
Good challenge. So for those of you listening, have a think about how you can reshape your team meeting, bring that energy in, and a great place to start would be to ask your team members.
Good idea.
Have a great day. Thanks for joining us.
Cheers.